Hey guys, Becky here with Design Bundles, and I'm super excited to have you join me today because guess what? We have scored a brand new Cameo 4 Pro, and we're gonna go through the full unboxing in our first project with you. So guys, in case you haven't noticed, this machine is very large and in charge. Now, I love my Cameo 4. I think it's a great machine, but I won't lie, when Silhouette America first announced the Cameo 4 series, that it was gonna contain larger machines, it was very, very exciting because up until now, we've been limited to pretty much a 12-inch cutting area. So when they came out, they originally said that the Cameo 4 Pro was going to be a 20-inch cutting machine, which is really great for me because I like to buy my heat transfer vinyl on 20-inch rolls. But when it finally came out and it was 24 inches instead, that was even better because there are so many distributors for adhesive vinyl that adhesive vinyl comes in 24-inch rolls also. So just super exciting news. I'm really excited about it. What we're gonna do today is I'm gonna go through the full unboxing with you. We are going to completely set up the machine. I'm gonna show you a few things that you need to take into consideration when working with a larger machine, and then we will cut our very first project. So what you're gonna see me do is I'm gonna go through and I will remove the machine from the box and take out all of the different packaging that it comes along with. And I'll stop periodically and tell you a little here and a little there, but for the most part, we're gonna try to make this quick and painless, okay? Is this not the biggest cutting mat you've ever seen? Okay guys, so I believe that I have removed all of the extra packaging pieces. I removed, if I counted correctly, it was 13 pieces of blue tape, in case you're keeping count. And then I did remove this guy and another smaller piece. Those feel like kind of like a poster board or a project board, and then some extra styrofoam packaging. Now, you don't necessarily have to keep these, but I do want to say that you want to keep as much of your packaging as you can in terms of the boxes and the instructions and everything that it came with. I just recommend when you don't need it, take it and put it right back into the box. You're going to need the box if you ever need to file a warranty claim or anything like that, because that's what's going to keep it safe in the shipping and packaging department as far as mailing it back in for any type of warranty work, okay? In addition to that, it's just really good to have in case you ever need to travel with it, or if you were to move or anything like that. It just is the best way, in my opinion, to keep your machine safe. Now, with that in mind, you do also have a few extra pieces. You will notice that you can pull off these protective plastic areas. Some people get nervous about removing those, but guys, you're good, okay? You don't really have to worry about if your machine's gonna get scratched or anything like that. I've even been guilty about leaving them on appliances before, and you just kind of have to move past that, okay? So just spreading the love on that front. Now let's go ahead and talk about the different things that came with your machine. Of course, you saw the huge cutting mat, right? And then these are a few pieces that we need to go over because they are very, very important. Okay, so of course, the very first part we're going to talk about is this is your power cord. All right, this has everything you need to be able to plug in your machine. In this portion here, the larger portion, you have some instructions, you have some adapters and your blade. You also have your USB cable. Now let's go ahead and talk about this guy here. This guy and these feet are going to make up a support system that will support your super long mat. These edges here also make up your roll feeder. Now we are not going to get into the roll feeder today. We will make a separate video. That way we can make sure that we do it justice. But these little edges fit right under your machine. There's a little lip system. Okay, you can move them so that they're more comfortable. But basically, that will help line up with the base of your Cameo here. There we go. That way it will provide a system for your mat. This is what I'm talking about here. That way your mat isn't all loosey-goosey down here, okay? That's my official term. So what I was talking about with the roll feeder is you would remove this portion here, okay? And then you have 2 rolls here that would serve as to be able to hold your roll in place while it feeds into your machine. And you also have this stabilizing bar. Okay, so like I said, more on that to come. We will fully show you how to assemble and use your roll feeder. So that will be in the very near future. For storage purposes, this piece here has a nesting feature. It's kind of like fitting a little puzzle together, but even this little guy fits in here. Okay, now, there's nothing to lock these into place, so if you go to move it or turn it over, they will fall out. But I plan on either using some secure tape, because I don't plan on using this a whole lot. I don't know that I'll use the roll feeder enough. But you can also get a rubber band, and it will help keep everything together. So now let's go ahead and talk about your blade and your adapter. This does not come with all of the adapters. Okay, when I first opened my Cameo 4, the regular Cameo 4, it came with all 4 adapters. This one does not, but if you need them, you can grab those fairly inexpensively in my opinion. But you do have the #1 adapter, which is going to be good for your sketch pens and different things like that, okay? And then of course you have the standard Cameo 4 auto blade. Now there are 2 different auto blades available, and I'm just specifying because if you go to buy any replacement blades, then make sure you're getting the one that is for the Cameo 4 and not for the Cameo 3. When you go to load your blade, you are going to, now I just want to say, as long as the machine is off, you can move this little blade holder here. What you're going to do is pull out on the tab, insert the blade, the flat side goes to the back. And it should fit a little snugly, but make sure that you push down and it is inserted all the way. If it's not inserted all the way, if it's not inserted correctly, then what that means is that the auto adjusting feature may not work correctly. Once it's loaded, push the tab back in and your blade is installed. And that's the process that you'll repeat anytime you need to switch out your blade. Now let's talk about your guides here, your roller bars. You know, on the prior models Cameo, you had to either work out a way to lock or unlock, and then you would slide them into designated areas. You have more ability to determine your own size with the Cameo 4 Pro. You have 2 individual support bars here, or support rollers, might I say. You can slide those freely, okay? There's no restrictions on those. You do still have the same release and unrelease, the locking mechanism for the bar. And once it is unlocked, you can now freely slide this one as well. Now it does have arrows to designate pre-selected guide points for you, but for the most part, you can slide this almost anywhere you want. And once you lock it back into place, it's locked. So there's no more trying to figure out how to lock it and unlock it in terms of the notches on the bar. You can literally unlock it. This is a different type. It is also a sturdier bar than what you get on the Cameo 4, but it allows you to freely move your roller bar back and forth wherever it needs to be to accommodate your material. And I think that's really good because since you're not limited to a 12-inch cutting area, then the sizes of your materials can be really fluid, whether it's 19 inches or 20 inches or 24 inches or 22 and a half or whatever the case may be. You can now determine to cut without a mat and still be able to use any size material. Whereas before, if I wanted to cut something that was a little too small, I was still locked in on certain sizes on my rollers. So this really frees up that limitation and I don't have to use my mat. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but for the most part, your Cameo 4 is now set up and ready to go. We need to plug in the power cable. Now, of course, this comes in 2 pieces. You have one piece that plugs in to the back of the machine, and the other piece that is going to connect your power box here. As far as plugging them in, your plugs and your power button are going to be over here. This is the left-hand side of your machine. Okay, so go ahead and become familiar with those because you will need those. You do have a little storage area over here. This is on the right-hand side of your machine. If you're looking at it, it'll be on the left. And of course you can tuck your little blade storage in there. You can even put this guy in here. Now this is a tool in case you ever need to use a manually adjusting blade like a ratchet blade, or if you need to unscrew the cap on your blade to check and make sure that it's clean. Of course, we do have a video if you want more in-depth view of adjusting your blade, if you're having problems with it cutting, and it'll also talk about cleaning your blade and being able to take a look at what's on the inside. But you can tuck all of that right here. And then once we have everything inspected and ready to go, we can turn it on. Now, the reason that I go through all of this before I connect my machine as far as working with it in the software, the reason that I go ahead and unpack it and look at everything is because you really want to give it an overall, like a manual inspection. Okay, it's very important that you play with everything, make sure that everything works, get out all the pieces, because that's going to be step number one in making sure that your machine is going to be ready for you to use. So next we are going to take a look at setting this up with your software. Of course, we do have a video on an introduction to Silhouette Studio if you are starting as a beginner, and of course, welcome. All right, but what we're going to talk about is how to get your computer to recognize using the larger machine to be able to expand your cutting area. Okay guys, so one of the first things we need to talk about when working with your Cameo 4 Pro is the version of the software that you need. Now, I typically do not keep my software up to date to the latest version. They kind of have to dangle a pretty good carrot in front of me to get me to update my software. I just kind of get, I don't want to say stuck in my ways, but I get leery of the new software coming out because a lot of times it'll have kinks and bugs that they're still working out. So that's fine. But for the Cameo 4 Pro to be able to connect, you do need to update your software if you have not updated recently. So I'm going to go to software and I'm going to go to download. Now this is silhouetteamerica.com. And let me pause. If you are new to working with Silhouette machines, then you do need to come in here and download the software anyway. So this is the same process whether you are updating your current software or if you're downloading the software right off the bat from the beginning. So silhouetteamerica.com, click on software right here on the top toolbar and click download. And if you scroll down, you're going to go to legacy versions. And then this is where we're going to pause. This 4.4.281. It will tell you Cameo 4 Pro and Cameo Portrait 3 only. Okay, and then they recommend all other machines to use the 4.3.370. And that's okay. I actually think that's probably the edition that I was already on, but I need to go ahead and update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose you can choose whichever one is good for you, but I'm going to choose the Windows 64-bit, and you can see down here it's going to download straight to my computer. Now I'm going to allow that to download, and then I will install it in the software. For the time being, we can go ahead and manually connect our Cameo 4 Pro with our Bluetooth. I'm going to bring up my little taskbar and type in Bluetooth. Now I am on a Windows PC, so this may be a little bit different if you're on a Mac, but I'm going to go ahead and click Add Bluetooth. Now, if your Cameo 4 Pro, you have a Bluetooth icon, it should be lit up in blue. If it's not, just give it a little one tap and that should activate the Bluetooth on your machine, and you should be able to come here and get it paired up to your computer. So it'll say your device is ready to go, so just hit done. And then we can proceed with the process of installing this software on our computer. I'm not going to go through that with you. We do have a video specifically on upgrading and even downgrading to a legacy version of the software if you need it. So I will link that for you in the description. But for now, I'm going to install this and then I'll meet you back in the software. Okay, so now that we're in the software, I want to take a look at a few things. Your machine needs to be set to Cameo Pro. That's what's going to unlock the extra large mats and the extra large media size to be able to cut those. Otherwise, if you stay on just the regular automatic Cameo, then you'll notice that you don't have the larger cutting mats. And while you can type in custom media sizes, it actually won't work that way. So we are going to use the Cameo Pro from the drop-down menu, and we'll use Auto, which is the Cameo Pro cutting mat. And then media size, we're actually going to use a width of 24 because that's the maximum width, and a height of 20 because that's the width of the roll of HTV that I have. Now, of course, I want to go ahead and turn on my cut border because that's going to make a big difference. And then I want to position the material that I'm going to cut. Now, I have already measured. I'm doing this on a sign, and my sign is actually about 20 by 27. So this will work really, really well. But if you're in doubt on how you do that, you can actually draw a rectangle off to the side, open up your scale panel, go to transform and then scale, and make sure it's unlocked, your aspect ratio is unlocked, and type in 20 and 27. Rotate it if you need to. And then you'll see I can tell that that's going to work really, really well. So it works out because that's the largest that I can cut it without breaking apart this design. But I can cut this without breaking apart the design, which I could not do with my regular Cameo 4. So it's definitely a win-win. I'm going to center that just to give myself enough room around the sides. Then I can right click and choose flip horizontally. If you watched any of my videos before, you know that I prefer to flip my design myself and not have the software do it for me. I just think it's more reliable that way. I'm going to click over to the send panel. So in the send panel, I'm going to come down here and click on my available Silhouette devices, and you'll see that it does show me the Cameo 4 Pro for the USB and the Cameo 4 Pro for the Bluetooth. Now I do want to say that at first my Cameo 4 Pro would not recognize, and I did have to break out that USB cable and connect it with the cable before it would recognize the machine. I didn't actually have to cut or send anything, but once I connected it with the USB cable, then it came online for both the Bluetooth and the USB cable connections. So don't be worried if it doesn't show up right away, and give that little trick a try. So I am going to connect with my Cameo 4 Pro on Bluetooth, and it automatically changes over to accept the larger cutting area. Now I do want to change my settings here because I am going to be cutting heat transfer vinyl, and I want it to cut, and for the tool I am using the auto blade. Now I am going to perform my test cuts because I have heard of the Cameo 4 Pro cutting a little bit differently, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to get the best cut possible. Also, the heat transfer vinyl that I use is a little bit thicker than other types, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is I will increase my blade to a 3, and I'm going to set my force to a 10. So you may not have to do that depending on the brand of heat transfer vinyl that you're using, but this is the settings that I know work on my regular Cameo 4, so that's where I'm going to start off with my Cameo 4 Plus. But just don't be surprised with a new blade and a new machine if you don't have to do some modifications, especially in the beginning. Now, if you still can't get it to cut, we do have a video, like I told you in the beginning, about taking a look at your blades and doing some troubleshooting. Those steps will also apply for the Cameo 4 Pro, so take a look at those steps if you're still having problems. So real quick, before I get to actually send this to the machine, I have decided to cut without a mat just to really give this machine a really good test. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the cutting mat to none. And I want to show you a trick. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But if you notice when I have the 24 by 20, and you notice I have the arrow on the left-hand side, it's trying to get me to feed the material in that way. Now, I can do that, but I lose about an inch of cutting space down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fib to the machine, and I'm going to tell the machine that I'm cutting 24 by 24. Now I'm only doing that because I know that I have plenty of clearance this way. I have a good probably 3 or 4 inches on the bottom of my material. So just know that when you fib to the machine like this, you do run the risk of not having the accurate cut border to be able to show you where your project is going to cut off. Okay, but if you're confident in the material allowance that you have, then you can do this. So I'm going to click over to the send panel. And of course it shows me without the cutting mat, and that's how it's going to know how far to feed the material into the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, and we will start working on our project. Okay guys, so I have cut my heat transfer vinyl. All right, like I said, it was a 20-inch roll, so it was a really good test for me because I really like having the larger sizes in heat transfer vinyl, and now I have the ability to really use it in all its wonderful glory, right? So the first thing that I want to do, because I'm going to be brave today and cut without a mat, I'm going to line up and make sure that when I adjust my roller that it goes to the right area. So now I'm going to take the very edge of my heat transfer vinyl, line it up with each roller, and load. Okay, so that was pretty painless. I'm going to give it a tug. That's how you know that it's in there nice and tight. And I'm going to go ahead and do my test cut. Okay, so my test cut is really good. So I'm going to go ahead and reload this, and then I will send my full file to cut. All right, with the cutting complete, I'm going to go ahead and unload the material. I'm going to move this guy out of the way. He did his job. I'm very proud of him, and we are going to complete our project. I have to say that that is the only drawback that I see so far in having this extra large cutting machine is you really have to have the space to work with it. Okay, so let's talk about the project that we're doing. Now I selected this huge sign, and I really like it a lot. Of course, I mean, who doesn't love big projects? And this is a sign that if I was using my regular size Cameo 4, I would have had to done in pieces, which is fine if that's what you're working with. But it was a great way to test out my brand new larger than life cutting machine, right? Now, another thing that you're wondering is why am I doing this in heat transfer vinyl? It's on a wood sign, I could have used adhesive vinyl. Well, yes, that's true. But if you haven't noticed already, sometimes working with adhesive vinyl when you're trying to put it on a wood sign, it doesn't like to stick very well. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with this exact frame, but it is the case with a lot of different woods, and especially if you're wanting to stain it and that sort of thing. So sometimes using HTV can be easier. Plus, it has the added benefit that this is a matte HTV. So that means that it will actually look like paint after I press it on, which I don't get that with adhesive vinyl. So a lot of really good reasons. And because I'm working with a large text, it's not as obvious, but if I was working with small text, it would also be easier for me to work with and weed small pieces. And I'm going to use my Teflon sheet. It's not quite large enough. And I'm still going to press the HTV like I would for a garment, okay? So what that means is that my time and temperature for this project will be 320 for 15 seconds, and I need to apply pressure. But of course, depending on the manufacturer for your HTV, it may be a little bit different. And I'm just going to press this multiple times, and then we will see if we can peel it off. Ta-da! So there we go. There is my finished sign. I know it's not the most complex sign in the world, but I'm very happy with it. And I don't know how well you can see, but it really does look like it's painted on and not a vinyl decal put on there. So that is the advantage of using heat transfer vinyl for a sign. Now, of course, I will give you guys a better tutorial in the future about using this method and some of the ins and outs of what you want to do. But for today, this is the basics of it. So let's go ahead and get back to our main focus, which is our Cameo 4 Pro. Okay guys, so let's give a brief recap of what we learned about our Cameo 4 Pro. If you are upgrading from a regular Cameo 4, you will be very, very happy to know that this machine is very similar. It has the same great build. It has the same great auto blade and tools that you will be able to use almost interchangeably, okay? Of course, there will be things like cutting mats and whatnot that you will still need specialized just for this machine, if you decide to use cutting mats, that is. But guys, there are a lot of benefits to owning a larger machine. Now, you saw one example. We were able to complete that sign in one pass. This will also open you up to doing larger decals. If you do use decals, you can have larger print and cuts, okay, for some of you guys who have larger format printers. And guys, I'm really, really excited. I was really worried. I was worried that at a $500 price point that this machine might be a little bit lacking, because I know that there are some commercial cutters available at a similar price point, but I'm really impressed. I'm impressed with how well it cut. I'm impressed that for only $200 more, I can get double the cutting area. And I actually really enjoy the new cutting bar. Hopefully that'll be something that we will see on future models for the Cameo as well, because it's really nice to be able to adjust to the size that I need rather than be locked into certain presets. Okay, now in addition to that, how easy it is to slide, that's also a win in my book. But let's go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I'm a really big fan of the Cameo 4 Pro. It has really impressed me if you haven't noticed so far. You have all the great features of using the Cameo cutting machine series. You have the great software, and you just really have the ability to get a commercial size at a hobbyist skill level as far as technical terms. So very impressed. I'm very happy with it. I'm glad this was a good purchase for me. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please make sure you leave those down below. I do absolutely love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think of the Cameo 4 Pro. If you've already purchased one, I'd love to hear your input on it because I really love building this crafting community that we have. And guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do have more Cameo 4 projects for you right around the corner. And, you know, it just helps us help you kind of, you know, like I said, build this little crafting community and to be able to help each other along our crafting journey. So guys, again, I appreciate it. I appreciate you took the time to visit me today, and I'll wrap it up, but we will see you again next time.